Welcome to This Week in Location-Based Marketing with your hosts, Rob Woodbridge and Asif Khan.
Well, it's that time of the week where we get to have a special guest, and I'm really excited this week because we've mentioned a few times this guy named Gary Johnson, who's always on, on his workout run and trying to keep up with watching our podcasts while he's doing that. And here he is. He's actually on the show this week. So welcome to Gary Johnson, who's the Chief Solutions Strategist for Esri in Australia. Gary, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Asif. It's great to be here, and yeah, thanks for the call-outs previously, as I've been trying desperately to make it to the office in time whilst listening to your podcast.
Excellent.
I really do enjoy listening to the podcast because for us at Esri, we're all about geography and location. We're about helping businesses make better decisions through location. We provide that technology, data, and know-how for people when they want to work with location. And for those that don't know who we are, we're the world's biggest provider of geographic information system technology, and have been doing this for 40 years now.
Yes, so you're not a startup?
No, we wouldn't call ourselves that, although often in the retail world especially, our name would be as well known as many of the startups. For
sure. And I mean, you work with a ton of startups as well, so but we'll get to that in a second. So one thing that I know you're really interested in talking about is kind of the difference in terms of how you and Esri see location-based marketing versus proximity marketing. Can you give us a little bit of insight into how you think about that?
Yeah, I suppose for us, location-based marketing is a huge area of work that we've been involved in for many years. It involves everything from understanding where to place a store to meet the local marketplace, how to advertise to reach your customers, or put the right products in place. And recently, I think because of the excitement around beacons and smartphone technology, there's been a real push to what I call proximity-based marketing, which is that I walk into a store, there's a beacon, and it sends me a message. Or I'm walking through a mall and I'm getting some notifications about specials that are in the area. And for me, that's just proximity-based because it often misses out the whole concept of understanding a customer and their relationship with the world around them. And for me, location helps you understand where people live, where they work, where they play, where they shop, and their motivations for being in all those places. So it's a huge topic that recently has been narrowed down into this view around proximity. And I think now it's our role to really broaden that thinking out again to everything you can do with location.
Fantastic. I mean, and I think you're quite right. I mean, I don't disagree with any of that. I think proximity being, really that truly local engagement type of stuff, where location is really about, the data that gives it more, more relevance and context, around, all that the engagement piece, is enabled by. So yeah, truly hear what you're saying in that framework. Now, you guys, speaking of startups, while you're not a startup, you're a 40-year-old company, you do work with startups, and you actually have a program for startups. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, the Esri Startup Program has been around for a year or so now, and it's a three-year program that gives emerging businesses the tools to build mapping and location analytics capabilities into their products. We do this to really promote the fact that location is now core to so many applications. You'll be hard pushed to find a smartphone app that isn't using your location these days. And Esri, as that provider of the world's leading geographic information systems technology, wants to make sure that we're supporting startups. And in Australia in particular, where I look after, we're really out there trying to find the startups that are going to benefit the best from including location in their products. There's a great startup that we've been working on recently that some people may have heard of called RainCheck. They provide an online to offline service that takes the customer from viewing a website and looking at products on there to being able to say, oh, this is something I'm interested in, and I'd like to be reminded the next time I'm near a store that has this in stock. So it really bridges that online browsing right through to the offline purchasing, or the phygital piece, as we've started to call it recently. And they're part of the startup program, and for them it's about us being able to provide them the know-how and specialist consulting around how to use location, as well as access to all our technology and data as well.
Fantastic. Now, you mentioned also that, while retail is, not necessarily, the number one vertical for Esri as a company. I mean, as a 40-year-old company, you've done a ton of work in telecoms, in automotive, in insurance companies, healthcare, public sector type stuff, a whole range of industries you work in. Perhaps you can tell us a little bit about, if we park retail on the side for a moment, what you're doing in maybe healthcare and automotive and some of these other industries that might be interesting.
Yeah. Just before I do, I want to say we do lots of work in retail.
Yeah, no, I realize that. So.
But moving on to, banking is a great example as well, and something we're working on with one of the biggest banks here in Australia right now is how you can connect the patterns of behaviour in someone as they're moving around to being able to promote products to them. Now, the banks for a long time have been looking at your transaction history and thinking about how they can identify life events like the birth of a new child or moving to a new house, these types of things that allow them to market products. But now we're looking at how can you use location to do that same thing. So the example here is if a customer has been visiting car lots, so you've seen that they've been going from one car lot to the next, this is the right time to be able to target a car loan to them. So being able to then, whether it's through email or through their app on their phone, be able to say, we noticed you've been looking at cars recently, here's our car loan. And you can do the same thing with home loans as well, for visiting real estate agents, or at least visiting properties that you know are on the market for sale at the moment, allows you to make that offer of the home loan.
Very good, very good. And does that apply also in the insurance sector?
Yeah, we're doing some really exciting things in the health insurance sector at the moment, where we're looking at how you can use the motivations that are delivered through location-based messaging to help people improve their activity levels. And this, for me, is a great use of advertising for good, if you like. It's about how you get to say to people, you're at work, you haven't been doing much exercise today, it's time for you to go for a walk. Make that next meeting a walking meeting. Or on your way home from work, get off the train and stop early and walk the rest of the way. I think it's a beautiful matching of location-based messaging with improving people's health.
I like it. I like it. The advertising for good. Wow. I mean, it seems like an oxymoron, isn't it? But it does happen. There is a lot of advertising for good out there, and that's one thing on the show that Rob and I try to focus on, is trying to pull out these good news, these charitable use cases around advertising, which we're seeing more and more and aren't highlighted enough. So I'm glad you guys are see that opportunity as well. Maybe as a last thought, if you could just give us a sense of, for those of us who are in North America, what is the market for location-based services like in Australia at the moment? Is it still in its infancy? Is it maturing? Where are we at?
Yeah, I think the first thing to comment on is Australian retail in general and the change that's happening there. For a long time, distance and the different seasons we have here has protected us from global competition. But more recently, department stores have been challenged by H&M, Zara, Sephora, Uniqlo, all coming into Australia. So the competitive landscape has changed dramatically. People are looking for that way to differentiate. I'd say that location-based services is still early. People are still in the data collection mode. The actual desire to push messaging to people is still something that maybe culturally we're not quite aligned with. So that's why I focus so much on helping businesses understand the data they're collecting, rather than necessarily thinking about how you push a message to somebody.
Cool. Well, I'm glad that there's. I mean, from our perspective, we see location being increasingly relevant all over the world, and Australia is no exception to that. From the LBMA's point of view, we're big plans for 2016 in terms of growing in that market. So looking forward to seeing you face to face. But again, for our audience, we've been chatting with Gary Johnson, who's the Chief Strategic Solution Strategist for Esri in Australia. So Gary, thanks so much for taking a few minutes out of your day. It's Monday morning for you, I know, it's Sunday for me, but we're happy over the holidays to be chatting with you.
Thanks, Asif. I've really enjoyed it.